Hey everybody, Gary Fong here, and just got a really good announcement from the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention in Atlanta regarding COVID and its transmissibility. Printed it out right here, and I want to discuss this because it actually changes the flowchart and is extremely encouraging about what to expect with regards to the future of this disease, because this is about health prevention and keeping us safe. And quite honestly, I don't know why this isn't in all of the headlines, because what they released today, Friday, August 14, 2020, is quite stunning in what it says. So let me just kind of read you what it says here. So what it says is that the CDC updated The CDC updated its isolation guidance based on the latest science about COVID-19, showing that people continue to test positive for up to 3 months after diagnosis, which means diagnosing positive, and not be infectious to others. Okay, so basically what that is saying is that you can test positive 3 months later after testing positive, still not be infectious to others. So in situations like what we had in Auckland in New Zealand, where New Zealand was over 100 days COVID-free, a single family of 4 that did not go outside of the province wound up testing positive for COVID, mandating that Auckland shut down after 102 days of no coronavirus. So let's just go back. 102 days of absolutely nothing. One family of 4 tests positive. Now, according to the CDC, you can test positive for up to 3 months after diagnosis and not be infectious to others, which would then, by and of itself, suggest that there's no need to shut down a good chunk of an entire country, letting people not work or go to schools. Okay, so that comes up with a brand new flowchart. And the flowchart for how we mitigate and flatten the curve for this disease is seen on the right, and the updated flowchart is seen on the left. And I really want to go through it very carefully so you can understand the importance of the meaning of what just happened in this report. So we'll start at the top and we'll say that you're either symptomatic or asymptomatic. Now, let's just say you're outside of the population. You're a guy from Wuhan, he ate a bat from the wet market, or whatever they say caused it. Okay, so you come in, or whatever, you're symptomatic or asymptomatic. The first thing they want you to do is wear a mask and outdoors, and then isolate. If you become symptomatic, then the first thing that happens is they want you to take a test. If the test comes back positive, then they will lock down the country. This has happened even just now. You saw a single family of 4 tested positive, and they locked down a portion of New Zealand. 1/3 of New Zealand went into lockdown measures. Now that's on a positive test. If you test negative, then you go back up here to wear the mask and then isolate. And then if at some point you become symptomatic, you go back down, get the test. If you test positive, then like in Kelowna, we had 8, Kelowna, British Columbia, Canada, we had 8 people that tested positive, and our health minister called that a coronavirus outbreak. Now again, I'm not saying that they were hospitalized, I'm not saying that they got sick. They weren't even told here that they were symptomatic. It just basically said that they tested positive. So what they did is they put us on more stringent, not lockdown measures, because British Columbia never did that. And incidentally, at this date in time, in 119 British Columbia hospitals, and there are 11 COVID patients in 119 hospitals. So when we're talking about flattening the spread, I think that the spread is about as flat as you could possibly iron a high-quality set of sheets. Okay, so anyway, so we're down here, and then, so we lock down the country. And then that basically just happens until we get the vaccine. Now, once we get the vaccine, then everybody who is negative gets the vaccine. Everybody who is symptomatic gets the vaccine. Everybody who tested positive gets the vaccine. In fact,
because until we get almost everybody vaccinated,
because that was seen as the only way, according to Bill Gates, that the only way we can return to normal is if the entire globe gets vaccinated. Okay, so that's the old flow chart right there. Now let's look at the new flow chart based on the information in this document. I'm going to go down to the second part of it, the highlighted part, and it says, and this is really good news, it says, additionally, the duration of infectiousness in most people with COVID-19 is no longer than 10 days after symptoms begin, and no longer than 20 days, just to be safe, for people who with severe illness or those who are severely immunocompromised. That means that within a span of 20 days, the host will either die or the virus will die inside the host. The host builds an immunity to the virus, and that's the way a virus burns out. A virus comes into a herd, and then it infects it. You've seen, what's a good example of that? Birds on a high power wire. Obviously, there's a lot of radiation and magnetic energy coming off those power wires. A lot of them perched on it and died. Some of them were not sensitive to that exposure and then lived. So there are people that would be, of course, built-in immunity, and that's why they call immunocompromised people the ones that we worry about. That's why we wear the mask, not to protect us, but to protect those who are older or immunocompromised. So let's start with a brand new flow chart. If you are symptomatic or asymptomatic, just isolate for 20 days. You come into a new country, or let's just say that, we want to take a big chunk of the population. Rather than close down the entire population, maybe just say, this city block, isolate for 10 to 20 days. Whatever it is, do something. I don't know. Bottom line is, biologically, isolate for 10 to 20 days. Because if you're symptomatic, then you will be non-infectious, according to the CDC, after 10, maximum 20 days. If you're asymptomatic, then perhaps at some time you'll become symptomatic. Then you'll cross over to this part, or you'll isolate for 10 to 20 days, never become symptomatic, and hooray. In both cases, you are non-infectious. And non-infectious means, yes, you were infected, you carry the virus, but the virus will die inside you, or you have already died with a virus inside you. That's the way a virus burns out. So when people say, face masks and don't touch things and everything like that, when you have a period where people were already out for even a month, the globe was open or whatever, and they said, it's over, we're relaxing our lockdown measures. You saw people demonstrating on the streets for Black Lives Matter. You saw people on the beaches and whatever. People were going into the produce market and picking up apples and putting them down and everything like that. In contact transmission, the reason why it's so exponential in its spread, it's simply because people touch people. And it's kind of like I'm at the center of a hub that goes out to, 64 spokes of the people that I touched. Now they become hubs, and they touch 64 people. So you can kind of see how the whole thing just becomes this dense population of people who are exposed. And that's what we're saying. When we try to put on masks, when we try to stay 6 feet apart, we're trying to prevent getting exposed to the virus. But after a month, 2 months, 3 months of being on the beach, people going to theaters, for example, here in British Columbia, the cooties have then all spread to everybody. So then we assume that we all have it. Okay? So, because you can't already have it, and then you lock everybody up so that they can't spread it when they've already gotten it. See how that works? Like, we've all touched each other, hugs, 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 and everyone goes and hugs everybody else, and it's like, oh my gosh, 4 people in New Zealand tested positive, we've all got to lock inside our houses. Just go, I listen to the experts, I listen to medical doctors. Just put your common sense hat on. Does that make sense? Okay, so now we get to this part of the graph where it says, we're non-infectious, and then we test. Don't know why we test, but we do test. And if it comes back positive, or if it comes back negative, in either situation, after 3 months, we're non-infectious. Because the virus died inside the immune host, the host who had already built an immunity, or the host died. Okay, so that's called herd immunity. Look how simple this flow chart is. Now someone said, oh, well this doesn't mean you don't need to wear masks anymore. Well, let's think about that. Where in this flow chart would you want to insert masks? If you're symptomatic or asymptomatic, after a period of 10 to 20 days, you're non-infectious. Okay, so I'm non-infectious. What does non-infectious mean? Can't infect anybody. So I can't infect anybody, but I'm still going to wear the mask. Still going to wear the mask at home or driving my car. Even though I can't infect anybody, nobody can infect me. Still going to wear the mask. Okay, where in this flow chart do we put the mask? Now, when we say test, we ask ourselves, is the test necessary, period, if after 10 to 20 days of people in, however you're going to certify it, inside for 10 to 20 days, they become non-infectious. The virus died inside the host, or the virus killed the host. In either way, the host burns out. No longer part of the population anymore. Once that happens, then you basically have taken care of it. So let me ask you, where on this chart would you apply a vaccine? Well, I'd apply it maybe between 10 and 20 days. Okay, so you're going to put a vaccine in when people, after 10 to 20 days, will become non-infectious, and the virus is going to die anyway. I'm going to put the vaccine in after the whole thing's done, so we never get it again. The virus is gone. So, what we've done, thank you, CDC, really appreciate it. It has discovered that we now no longer need anything more than 10 to 20 days of isolating the symptomatic. That's it. This document right here, what the document says is that after 10 to 20 days, a subject who is infected or not infected will burn the virus out, therefore obviating a need for a test or a vaccine. It's not that hard. But look at the old flow chart and how convoluted it was, and people were like going, wow, it doesn't make sense. Even our smartest doctors, they're scratching their heads because this is a smart virus. This is a clever virus. It doesn't act like any other virus we've ever seen before. Now, why would a virus act like a virus you've never seen before? That's kind of my last question. But bottom line is that here's today's news. Thank you, CDC. You've done a great job, because we are now with the answer without the vaccine. 10 to 20 days isolation of the symptomatic or the asymptomatic, so you're going to bring people in from outside. We're already doing it 14 days. So isolate them, put them in quarantine, bring them out, and they are rinsed free with bleach and a fabric sheet of Febreze. No, don't do that. Okay, so anyway, questions in the comments. Don't forget to subscribe. Thanks for watching.